It's time for the Unnamed SWTOR Podcast, a podcast so good it doesn't need a name. So without any further ado, here's your host, JD. Take it away, Johnny.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 51 of the Unnamed SWTOR Podcast, recorded on July 13th, 2014. Can't believe this is the 51st episode, and that next week will be the 52nd episode if we continue using the normal numbering system. So that means that I've been doing this for over a year. I know that my actual anniversary was sometime in early June. I haven't really been keeping track of that. I've really just been keeping track of the numbers. But 52 episodes is pretty exciting, so next week, I don't know, I'll try and do something special or something. I don't know. We'll see. I'm your host, JD, aka Gaddick Teague, in case you didn't know. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the second dev stream of Galactic Strongholds. They went into the Coruscant apartment. This one was a little bit less information heavy, but there was still some cool stuff to be gleaned from it. I took some notes this time, so I'm not just going off memory, and we will discuss what we have learned. On top of that, I want to talk about tactical flashpoints. We had a double XP weekend, and KDY, as it always is during double XP weekends, was all the rage. So I want to talk about tactical flashpoints, what I think they do well, and what I think they should do for other flashpoints and how they can improve them. I know that this has been a hot point of contention, and I may have talked about it in past episodes, but I want to talk about it again. All this and an idea fresh off my personal wall of crazy. Let's force leap right in. Red 2, I've got a topic coming in hot requesting clearance to engage. Lock S foils and attack positions, you are cleared to discuss. So this week, once again, on Thursday, BioWare released the dev stream, or didn't release it, they just did it, the dev stream number 2, where they went over the Coruscant Stronghold and some stuff about keys. I think the main emphasis of this episode was to explain how the key system works, how some of the UI stuff will work for that, how you transfer or transport to your stronghold. So interesting and important nuts and bolts stuff, which I think was all pretty good. I think it was all pretty interesting, well thought out. I like how the key system works, which we'll discuss in a second. But before we get into anything else, they did announce in this week's episode that dueling will be available in Strongholds, and that Strongholds can hold up to 60 people at the moment, which could obviously change. Any of this could change. But I think that's two big things out of the way that could have been hang-ups that I think are super important that they announced and they made the right decision on. So kudos to BioWare for doing the right thing there. Hopefully that's how it goes live. I mean, we know they've kind of said some stuff in the past that didn't necessarily happen. Whatever, I'll let that be. So first they showed the key system, which I like a lot. I think they've done a good job making it very user-friendly. You open up basically a new taskbar, a new window like you do with your crew skills or your character sheet, things like that. You open that up and you can open up your keys in each of your strongholds. So you have 4 strongholds at the moment. I believe it's Tatooine, Narshada, Coruscant, and Dromund Kaas. So yes, 4. There are 4 at the moment. We could see more in the future. They were very cagey about if we would see more in the future. I think that there's a higher probability that we'll just see expansions in the current ones, but you never know. Maybe we will see something on Makeb or Corellia or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, you open it up, and you have the option to, invite someone to your stronghold. Very simple. I think that's very important that you're able to invite your friends over. Now that dueling is available in your stronghold, you can hold dueling tournaments wherever you want. You could have a server-wide dueling tournament on someone's stronghold, because if you get an invite, you can go to any stronghold you want, and that is cross-faction as well, which is incredibly important. And as they said on the stream, there would be the possibility of having both factions in one stronghold, so that's a way to get cross-faction guilds together for events like that, B, get dueling events cross-faction, so you don't have to use the Outlaw's Den. You can just go into someone's stronghold on either side. And C, it's nice that you're able to just, hang out on your own stronghold on the opposite faction. Maybe your Dromund Kaas stronghold's your favorite, and you want to hang out there on your Republic tunes. You can go ahead and do that. So with keys, you can also send out a bronze key, which allows people to visit your stronghold anytime, so when you invite someone over, they're only available to be in your stronghold while you're online. I hope that there is some kind of buffer there because of frequent disconnects that happen both due to lag, due to ISPs, and due to the server. Sometimes the server is just very unstable and kicks people out. It would be really annoying if you have to re-invite 60 people or 59 people every time you disconnect because of whatever reason. So hopefully there's some kind of buffer there where you can hang out in the stronghold for 5 or 10 minutes while a person deals with whatever they're dealing with. With the bronze key, though, you can visit their stronghold anytime, online or offline. So the keys are on a per-person basis, but you can group invite, which is nice. That's a very important feature of it. Also, with your guild houses, you can... Yes, they do have guild strongholds in addition to the guild starships, which we know nothing about yet, which is a little scary, but hopefully we'll see something on that soon. But the bronze key allows you to visit anytime, online, off, but you can't change decorations, you can't do anything like that. So that's how the bronze key works. The silver key allows the player to invite other players. So with the bronze key, you can't invite your friends, you can just visit. With the silver key, you can invite friends, they can kick, they can also send bronze keys out to people. So if they think that someone deserves to be able to visit your stronghold whenever you want, they can go ahead and do that. This is actually very nice, and I think a lot better than how they handle basically guild leadership. I think this is a better way of doing that, because right now it is kind of annoying how you have to transfer leadership and officer positions and things like that. I think this is a very good system, and I think it's very simple, clean, and great. They also said that there is a ban list, so if you don't want someone ever coming to your stronghold ever again, maybe they drink all your Corellian ale and throw up all over the carpet, and you don't want them ever coming back, you can go ahead and ban them, and they'll never be allowed back. So the keys are really cool. They also discussed how you can list your strongholds. So if you were on a neutral planet, you can list it for the Republic side, you can list it for the Imperial side, you can list it for both if you want, so there's a lot of options there. But if you're on a faction planet like Dromancas or Coruscant, you can only list it on the side that it corresponds to. So Republic for Coruscant and Imperial for Dromancas. Again, they did talk about how the listing scoring works, and they did say that it has to do only with how much you've collected and how much you've stuffed into your stronghold. I discussed last episode how much I hate that system. I was not available to watch the stream because I was at work, like many people are. But I tried to get Road over at Toracast. Go ahead and listen to Toracast if you're not already a listener. And they did not answer my question, as they did not answer many questions, because they were busy answering a lot of questions they've already answered. But I think that's how the internet goes. You just get the same question over and over and over again. Like, why haven't named a show yet? I get that question a lot. But the guild listing system also looks pretty interesting. It allows players, while you're online, to visit your stronghold, take a look. Higher ranked strongholds will be higher on the listing service. So if you want to visit the stronghold with the most stuff, who's collected the most, you can go ahead and do that. I don't like the fact that they said that subscribers get double points for being a subscriber. If you've collected a whole crap ton in the game, if you spent money on those cartel packs, I think you've earned the right to have a high prestige score. I don't like being docked prestige just because you're not a subscriber. When I look at things like that, I feel like it's just petty. It's not an encouragement to say, hey, you should subscribe, because it's not that big of a perk. It's just a minor annoyance that I could see turning players off more than I could see it turning players on to subscribing. That's not how subscriber perks should work, and if that's not how they should work, they should just get rid of that subscriber perk. I don't think anyone would complain about that either. But continuing on in my notes, they also discussed how you leave the stronghold, which I was very surprised by, the amount of ways and accessibility to your stronghold. You can just visit your stronghold by one click, boom, you get teleported to your stronghold, and then on leaving your stronghold, you can return to your last known location. You can exit to planet, whatever planet you're on. So if you're on your Nar Shaddaa house, you can exit to Nar Shaddaa. I assume this is grayed out if you're on the cross-faction planet. You can also exit to ship, which is cool if you want to just go to your ship, if you want to teleport to your stronghold and then go right to your ship because you wanted to go to somewhere else. That seems to be an option. And then finally exit to fleet, so basically acts as another fleet pass. Very cool. These will be limited for free-to-play or preferred players. That I think is fine. It's a quality of life issue. It's not hurting anyone. It's just a minor perk of subscribing, so I don't find that egregious at all. And that's basically the gist of the UI that they have in there for Strongholds. I like it a lot. I think that the UI looks good. It's very easy. It looks very user-friendly. I like a lot of the options that you get when using it. I think they've done a pretty good job there. And then I took just a bunch of minor notes as I was watching the stream, so I'll go through those. The ability to rotate and offset things in the hook system, I think does a great job of giving that extra layer of customization that I think people are afraid of when you have the hook system. You can actually shift things outside of the hook that it's based in with the offset, as long as it falls within the offset limits that are in there. So you can kind of get off the grid if you want to do that. You can rotate and all that good stuff. And I think that there is going to be a large variety of things that you can do just by using the hook system and then moving things in whatever axis you want. And I think that's a very cool thing. I don't know if they check for clipping. I couldn't tell if you could just place something that would clip into something else. If you had like a couch, say, and then you wanted to put an end table next to it and the end table kind of clipped into it. I assume they don't, seeing as they haven't fixed other clipping issues in the game, but that's just something that I thought when I was watching it. I also really like the lighting effects that they have. I think they've done a good job with that, allowing you to get some mood lighting in your Stronghold. I wish that you can change the global lighting a little bit. They said there's no day-night cycles, just like there aren't in the game. So it would be nice if you could have shades or something in your Stronghold to kind of give certain rooms a certain feel. But I think that the lighting they have does look good, and I think that they've done a good job with that. I also really like the Carbonite trophies that they have. They showed off some Carbonite trophies on the walls next to the stairs. I think they look really, really cool. They've done a great job with those. They're very detailed. They have people in different positions of the wall. I think that's awesome. They haven't said how you get those, but it would be nice if they came from certain quest lines, especially if you're a bounty hunter, because a lot of the bounty hunters collect trophies like that. So if you could hang those on the walls, that would be awesome. They also discussed some of the random doodads you can put in your Stronghold. They said you'll have an appearance mod station, a cargo bay, a guild bank. They'll have an item mod station, the mail. You'll be able to get legacy storage, the GTN, the prototype mats guy, which I believe is the guy that you trade in the parts for when you buy the cartel packs for crafting mats. I think that was one of those guys who was a little Jawa. They didn't seem to know what it was, and I think that's what it was, but I'm not positive about that. They said that the achievements will be retroactive. I think they talked about this last week, but you will need to get drops again. So if you killed a certain boss, that's great. You might get an item for that, but if a boss drops something, you'll have to go back and do that. They also said that for certain achievements, if you want multiple of something, so say, I don't know, if you kill Dread Fortress, you get a Rancor decoration. If you want to get a second Rancor decoration, you need to go kill Dread Fortress again. Even though you don't get another achievement, you should get another item, as far as I can tell from what they said. They said that items must be acquired as decorations to place in your Strongholds, so no shenanigans with collections. So you're not going to be able to do like the crystal copy a billion times, and then I'll have a billion of this item. You're actually going to have to get multiple of them without the collections. It would be really cool if they had like a third option in the collection system that was like, buy max of these for my decorations. And maybe it would be a very expensive thing, but if there was something that you wanted to put a ton of in your Stronghold, that would be cool, in my opinion. They said they're unsure about a training dummy, but I would hope they would get one of those in there. They also discussed that there will be no dyeing of decorations, that there are decorations that are palette swaps, so you can go in and get different colored decorations like that, but you will not be able to dye them, which I was a little upset about, but I understand. They also said that your Strongholds is a rest area, which is nice. I think that's an important thing. And then finally, they said they're discussing mission terminals and if they want to have those available in Strongholds. So overall, there's going to be a ton of customizability and a ton of stuff to do in your Stronghold. And that leads me to my final point on this stream, and that is a quote from Jack Wood in which he said, "You'll never have to leave." And that's something that actually really scares me. I think that Strongholds are going to be great. I think they're going to be great places to hang out. A lot of players are going to want to use them. There's going to be a lot of social stuff going on in people's Strongholds. But I also worry that it will kill the fleet. The fleet is the go-to hangout place right now in game. And I think that's an important part of an MMO, is to have a place where players can congregate and see lots of other players. I think it's a place where even if you don't like fleet chat, I think it's important to a lot of people to see fleet chat going on because it means the game is vibrant. They see other players in the MMO. Their current position of not allowing fleet chat in your stronghold is a poor choice. They said that they are still discussing whether they want to allow it or not. I say at least have it be opt-in so that the fleet does seem more vibrant. At least people are talking in chat, even if they're not specifically in fleet. I think that having that centralized place is important to people. I think that when we had the server mergers the first time, one of people's biggest complaints is that the fleet felt dead. There was no one there. And I think that's a big problem that we might run into with Galactic Strongholds, especially if they allow stuff like the mission terminals, the quest turn-in terminals, different faction vendors and things like that. I think that's a bad idea, and I think that could be the unintended consequence of Galactic Strongholds. I think that Galactic Strongholds is looking really interesting and really cool, but I think that might also be its biggest downfall. So hopefully they figure out a way to work around that. They make the fleet not dead. They give players a reason to hang out in the fleet, to get groups together, to start forming pugs. That's also another thing. The fleet is just the go-to place to form a pug, and if players are all sharded across 4 planets, that's going to be really annoying. I'm interested to see with what they do on the next stream, which is, again, I think Thursday, which is annoying for me because, again, I work during the week, so I won't be able to be in chat, won't be able to be watching it live, but I'll obviously watch the VOD. I'll link to the VOD of last week's episode, last week's stream in the show notes. If you want to check that out, feel free to do that. Next, I'm going to change gears a little bit and talk about tactical flashpoints. If you've listened to the show, you know I love them. If you've seen my posts on Reddit, you know I love them a lot. So I want to talk about them, why I like them so much, and why I think that they should be utilized even more going forward. So let's talk a little bit about tactical flashpoints, since also coming in 2.9, at least as far as we know, or what was spoiled in the Summer of SWTOR Part 2, 2014 edition, is the continuation of the Forged Alliance's storyline. This continuation will take place in another tactical flashpoint, as far as we can tell. It's a little bit of a spoiler here if you are not interested in hearing anything about what we may or may not know. You might want to skip this segment, but it's probably going to take place in Manon. That's been the long-held rumor, at least. And if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that I really like tactical flashpoints. I think they're a really good idea. I think KDY is done excellently. It's a great leveling flashpoint, obviously. That's why we're talking about this, because of the continuation of the story, but also because I've done KDY about 150 times in the past 2 weeks. And I just think that's a great flashpoint. It's set up very well. I love the fact that it changes each time you go in there. You don't know which boss you're going to get. You don't know which of the 5 scenarios you're going to get, which mini bosses you're going to get. I think that adds variety. It makes me okay with doing something over and over again, and that's something that MMOs really have to fight against, the monotony of doing the same thing over and over again just for some small reward. And I think that even though it's very limited, it isn't a completely dynamic scenario. There are 5 set scenarios that you go into. There are 3 set bosses. There are a certain number of set mini bosses. I like it, and I think that a lot of players enjoy just that little bit of change as opposed to the set in stone flashpoints in the rest of the game. Now, if we take a look at the first few flashpoints in the Forged Alliance's storyline, I've had lots of problems with those. If you watch my PTS videos, you'll see exactly why, but I just think they are terribly set up. I think they are perfect examples of tactical flashpoints done wrong. KDY is a great leveling flashpoint. It's great because it's easy to get in there, you can do it at any level, so there's a lot of people trying to do it at once. It's simplistic, yet it has its challenges. It has the rotating scenarios, so it makes it feel fresher for longer, which I think is a great thing, as opposed to the Forged Alliances, the Assault on Tython, and the Assault on Korriban flashpoints, which are very static and are very boring. I really dislike the fact that they're just palette swaps, which side you go on, so that when you do Tython on either side, it's the exact same thing. If you do Korriban, it's the exact same thing. They didn't switch up the bosses at all. I mean, they've changed their names and whatnot, but they feel exactly the same. And I think they did a terrible job balancing a tactical flashpoint for level 55. I think one of KDY's strengths is the fact that it is challenging for a leveling flashpoint. While for the most part you can have a player die or two players die and they'll just respawn and run back in, I like the fact that you can die and there is a threat of death if you don't do things right, especially on the droid boss who spawns all the ads that you have to kill. If players aren't killing those fast enough, you're going to wipe because there's going to be so many of them out there that it just tears through everyone. I've been in a couple groups where that's happened and I think that's really cool. I think that's a really fun, lots of moving parts boss. I like the boss where you have to go run and click the grenades off you. I see a lot of people dying in that one. I think that's a good way to train basic raid awareness without having to use the Trinity. I don't think the Trinity is necessarily what needs to be taught in these flashpoints. I think that if you want to talk about, well, you need to teach players with your flashpoints, then I think you really need to be teaching them basic raid awareness and let the skills of playing a certain role come with that raid awareness. If you want to heal at a tactical flashpoint, that's great. If you want a DPS, that's awesome, great. And if you want a tank, it's nice to have a tank too. There's nothing wrong with playing your role in a tactical flashpoint, but you don't need each role. That's I think the main difference from people's perception of it to the reality. Just because you aren't forced into a role doesn't mean you can't do that role, and doesn't mean that doing that role is going to help your group. Having a great healer in a tactical flashpoint in KDY is awesome. So I think KDY really exemplifies what a great tactical flashpoint can be. Whereas the Assault on Korriban and the Assault on Tython flashpoints are really just boring. They're very long as opposed to KDY. KDY, you just hop in there. If you get the good set of scenarios, you're out in 20 minutes. If you get the long Jedi boss that takes like 10 minutes on his own, then takes a little longer. But the Assault on Korriban and Tython just feel like they drag on forever. They're so long, and there's never that sense of danger or thinking you're gonna die. It's just packs of mobs, packs of mobs, packs of mobs, a boss, packs of mobs, packs of mobs. And the one boss that I do find interesting is the Tython boss, the first Tython boss, the one that spawns the artillery strikes that you have to get on the ads. That's a cool boss, but you can just stand in those artillery strikes all night, all day, and you'll never die. And I really hope with upcoming flashpoints they improve on that. I know that we're going to be getting a lot of tactical flashpoints. They just make more sense, and that's fine. A lot of people's reservations comes to the fact that, well, if you don't force the Trinity, then players won't learn how to do X, Y, and Z. But I think you can do that in the constructs of a tactical flashpoint if done well. I really hope that the Manon flashpoint steps it up a notch. It trusts the player to be able to get out of fire. It should kill you if you don't get out of fire. If you're not doing the mechanics of the fight, it should kill you. But it shouldn't require you to have a tank, a DPS, and a healer. I think that makes for a more fun flashpoint than your basic, alright, you tank the boss, maybe there's some ads, you DPS them down, the healer heals. I think tactical flashpoints really lend themselves well to certain things, like everyone has to get out of the fire, everyone has to do X, Y, and Z, whereas in a normal flashpoint, you don't really end up with that. You end up with, the tank basically just parks his back to the wall and tank's there, the healer just heals, the DPS maybe have to kill some ads. That's how a typical regular old flashpoint goes. I think with a tactical flashpoint, you end up giving players roles that they wouldn't necessarily have, and it really enhances players' ability to think on the fly and get used to doing things that they're not used to doing. Get used to things that aren't just, oh, sit here and DPS for as long as you want, because when you do move on to raiding, that's what you get. And while I know a lot of people dislike the tactical flashpoints, I think if done right, they can be done really well. And like I've said many times, I really think that they should change all of the leveling flashpoints to be tactical so that you jump in there and you get the pops faster. Not everyone's just queuing for KDY because of speed. In doing so, I think players will be able to access the story of these awesome flashpoints. There's some great flashpoint stories out there that players are missing just because no one's really queuing for flashpoints. Everyone's queuing for KDY. So if they just make everything tactical, they put all of that on the group finder, makes it easier for everyone to go in. I don't see why they couldn't do it. There isn't a boss that I can think of that couldn't be done with any group composition. Like I said, it's fine if you have a DPS having to heal with the heal boxes and maybe some off heals. It's fine to have a DPS have to tank. It's fine however you want to work it. I think it could all work out if done right. I know that was a shorter segment. I apologize for that. This might be a shorter show as a result, but I just wanted to discuss that because I've seen some rumblings again on forums and the SWTOR subreddit. So just wanted to give you my perspective on that. And with that, it's time for the Wall of Crazy. What? That's impossible, even for a computer. It's not impossible. I used to bullseye Whomper outs in my T16 back home. They're not much bigger than 2 meters. In this week's Wall of Crazy topic, I asked you on Twitter, what do you want to see from Guild Conquests? Guild Conquest was spoiled a long while ago when they talked about why they were pushing off the Galactic Strongholds expansion, and it will consist of some form of doing daily quests, and we don't really know much more than that, but I want to know what you'd like to see from the system. Baffle @_baffle says, I want to see 4-man, 8-man content for smaller population guilds. I want space blockade runs and PvP attack and hold missions. I want a guild leveling system with reward unlocks, perks, and achievements. I think we all want the guild leveling system, and if you listen to one of my very early episodes, I discussed the guild website that they had put up, the SWTOR.com/guild rewards, I think it is, and I thought that the fact that they were putting that up there was a smoking gun for the fact that they'd be adding new guild leveling and rewards and unlocks and things like that, but it just never happened. I'm very surprised by that, but maybe we'll see something in the 2.9 patch. Spencer @DirtySpoons says, I would love increased resources, drops, and credits from planets that your guild controls. I like that idea a lot, and I'm pretty certain that that's one of the perks that you will be getting. Jason Connell @JConnell says, a flashpoint that is only available to the guild or faction in power at the time, pretty much like VOA in WoW or Wintergrasp in WoW, where you can get in there only if you controlled that planet. That would be pretty cool. I think it would be extra cool if it was just your guild that was available to do it. It would cause some tension between some of the bigger PvE guilds. I don't really love the idea because of the fact that it can be monopolized by certain guilds, especially if it's going to benefit guilds that are bigger doing it, because that'll put out these smaller, more focused guilds who can't control planets because they are smaller guilds. I don't love that, but we'll see. Nathan K @NepthanOrd says he'd like to see no repair bills for a week. That would be pretty cool, especially if you're doing it on a week where you're doing some new bosses, where you're wiping a lot. That could be hundreds of thousands of credits. Something tells me that they're not going to take that credit sync out. Bad Feeling Podcast @BadFeelingPodcast. Shout out to them. You should go check them out at, you guessed it, badfeelingpodcast.com. They say a harvester for all crafting mats that are on the ground. So basically a little droid that goes around, picks up stuff for your guild. That would be pretty cool. If you get some kind of tax system, like @JConnell suggests that a guild tax, and the guild gets a % of taxi fees or a % of all quests completed in that area, that would be very interesting. Definitely very lucrative for certain guilds. Crazy Glass Guy @CrazyGlassGuy says a special amount for all guild members that's maybe 120% speed and more knockoff resistant. I'd take that in a heartbeat. You got special priority transport around the planet because you controlled it. So thank you very much for all of your wonderful responses to this week's Wall of Crazy topic, and be sure to follow me on Twitter so you know when future Wall of Crazy topics are being posted. And I think that does it for this week's show. As always, if you'd like to contact me, you can send your questions, comments, and concerns to gaddockteague@gaddockgaming.com, or you can tweet them to @gteague on Twitter. If you have a topic for the show, make sure you email it in, and if I read your email on the show, I will send you a very nice pet code. So get those emails in, people. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes to get your weekly podcast updates. I'm also on Stitcher and some other random podcasting stuff. I don't know. Look me up. If you're new to the game or think you're resubscribing, I provided my refer a friend link in the show notes, so if you like a little added incentive to come back, feel free to use it. You can also check out my website, gadgetgaming.com, where I post podcasts, blogs, and videos, and whatever other stuff I put up there. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Unnamed SWTOR Podcast. This is JD, signing off.